When your laptop freezes, you don't sit there and try to reason with it. You don't ask the operating system about its childhood trauma. You just run a diagnostic, find the bad file, and restart the machine. It's just cold, hard engineering.
Right, exactly. You spot the error in the code and you execute a fix. I mean, you aren't treating the computer's feelings. You're literally just following a mechanical process.
And that is exactly how we need to look at human recovery today in this custom deep dive. Welcome, by the way. Our mission today is to open up the original 1939 blueprint of Alcoholics Anonymous. And we're not looking at the modern, soft therapeutic version you see in movies.
Yeah, definitely not the movie version.
Right, we're looking at the raw, rigid protocol it was actually designed to be.
Mm.
Because the source material frames human recovery almost like, well, literal system architecture.
It really does. And to fully grasp that 1939 blueprint, we have to look at how the protocol kind of eroded over time. The original text demanded what we'd call a strong paradigm.
Which is super different from today.
Oh, totally. This wasn't about sitting in a circle and complaining. It required a complete collapse of the ego, rigorous self-auditing, immediate financial restitution to people you've harmed, and unpaid service.
So a really high-energy, high-discipline framework.
Exactly. But over the decades, the sources show this massive drift toward a weak paradigm. It turned into, passive meeting attendance and emotional venting using therapy speak.
Which actually reminds me of Gresham's law from the text.
Oh, yeah, the economic principle?
Right, where cheap counterfeit money drives gold out of circulation. It's like low-effort emotional venting systematically crowds out the high-discipline recovery because, well, they're competing for the exact same space under the label of getting sober.
That's a perfect analogy. And what's fascinating here is if you look at modern preservationist groups like the Big Book Step Study or BBSS, they view that weak venting approach as legitimately dangerous to an addict.
Dangerous how? What do they actually do about it?
Well, in a BBSS meeting, the chairperson has absolute authority. If a speaker starts talking about popular therapeutic concepts or just, venting about their bad day, the chair will actively interrupt them.
Wait, they just cut them off in front of everyone?
Oh, yeah. They might even quiz the speaker right there on the specific historical instructions from the 1939 text. They are creating this incredibly strict boundary to stop modern therapy from diluting the original code.
Wow. So if they're that strict, they must believe that simply talking about your feelings is a massive systemic threat. Which brings us to the underlying math of the human ego, right? And Gregory Bateson's cybernetic theory.
Yes, Bateson's work is key here. He talks about the Cartesian split, which is this illusion we all have that our conscious mind is totally separate from our biological body.
And that creates the myth of willpower.
Right. Bateson used a term called symmetrical schismogenesis. But in plain English, it's basically an escalation trap.
Like an arms race.
Exactly. It's an arms race between your ego and the addiction. The conscious mind tries to dominate the physical craving, treating it like a battle of willpower. But the harder you fight it, the more tension you build. The friction just becomes unbearable.
Okay, wait. Here's where it gets really interesting for me. So Bateson is saying that the willpower we always praise, the addict gritting their teeth and fighting the urge, that's not the cure. The source material is arguing that the heroic attempt to use willpower is actually the very bug crashing the system.
Yes. The attempt to aggressively control the situation generates massive internal friction. Intoxication temporarily fixes that friction.
Because it breaks down the rigid ego.
Precisely. It creates a false chemical sense of unity. That's why the 1939 protocol requires an epistemological collapse.
Meaning it breaks down your entire understanding of how the world works.
Right. It proves you aren't the one in the driver's seat. Step one isn't about trying harder. It zeroes out the friction of self-will by shifting the individual to an open system reliant on external power.
Okay, so once the system is rebooted and you surrender that control, how do you prevent the escalation trap from happening again?
You rely on a mechanical three-part architecture. When a person shares their story in this framework, they aren't venting. They are delivering an objective engineering report.
Like a database audit.
Exactly. Here is the diagnostic history of how the system broke. Here are the exact steps executed to fix it. And here is the current result of neutrality.
And the manual for fixing it doesn't mess around. The Step 4 matrix is an exhaustive audit. You map the resentment to the specific mechanical trigger, figure out how it impacts your life, and identify the bugs.
The character defects, yeah. And to stop new resentments from festering into a system-crashing urge to drink, you run daily diagnostic sweeps. Steps 10 and 11 operate as real-time error correction.
You identify a conflict and resolve it that exact same day.
Right, you clear the cognitive cache. Interestingly, this undrifted, decentralized 1939 circuit is still preserved digitally today at unityforrecovery.com, running exactly as originally designed.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Even if you've never struggled with addiction, think about the sheer exhaustion of the Cartesian ego. Trying to aggressively manage every single outcome in your environment.
We constantly try to force our careers and our relationships to bend to our will, and we view that control as a strength.
Right. But if willpower and the desperate need to, direct the play are actually systemic bugs that generate thermodynamic friction, what areas of your own life might instantly improve if you stop managing them and just executed a systemic surrender?